Now we're going to turn to today's newspapers for you on the programme. And Alison Sargent's joining us here on set. Alison, you're starting in France, aren't you? We've got 6 police officers appearing before disciplinary committees today. This is for the potential mishandling of a case of femicide.
That's right, Stuart. This was one of the most shocking murders from last year. You might remember this woman, Shahinez Daoud, was shot and then set on fire by her ex-husband in the middle of the street, in the middle of the afternoon. This took place in the Gironde department, which includes the city of Bordeaux. Now, the department's director of public security is one of these 6 police officers now accused of errors and negligence in the case. The Parisien writes that the fact that high-ranking officers are now appearing before a disciplinary council is a strong signal and a political one, the paper says, since Emmanuel Macron had made fighting domestic violence one of the priorities of his government. But Macron's government, many would say, hasn't actually done very well on that issue. In fact, as we read in The Guardian, on New Year's Day this year, 3 women in France were allegedly killed by current or former partners. The feminist collective Nous Toutes accuses the government of remaining scandalously silent about these most recent murders. They emphasize that these killings are not isolated family dramas or crimes of passion. They are systemic. They are a systemic issue that requires a much larger systemic response.
Let's move to India for this next story. Sexist violence there of another kind has been making headlines. Apps that claim to sell Muslim women.
This latest one popped up over the weekend. It shows photos of over 100 prominent Muslim women, including journalists, activists, artists, and lawyers, and claims to be selling them to the highest bidder. Now, as we read in the New York Times, a similar app was actually released in June, both of them named after derogatory slang terms for Muslim women, both of them released using the US-based platform GitHub. The paper explains that the goal of these apps is obviously not to actually sell these women, but it's virtual bullying that is designed to threaten and silence them, particularly those who are critical of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, the Times of India has an editorial today calling for punishment for the perpetrators. The paper reminds us that the probe into the first app last year went nowhere. They say another failure in this case to do justice will not only embolden mobs, but will further damage India's reputation for its treatment of minorities. There has been some progress this time around, Stuart, already. Police in Mumbai say that they have arrested one suspect.
Let's move to the UK next, where today is a big day for Prince Andrew, trying to get a sex trafficking case against him dismissed.
This is the case linking Prince Andrew back to the sex trafficking ring purportedly run by Jeffrey Epstein. Tabloid The Sun headlines that the judge is making Andy sweat, which is a reference to Prince Andrew's claim that he is incapable of sweating. He said that in response to his accuser, Virginia Giuffre's description of him as having sweated on her. Now, ahead of this hearing, it was revealed just yesterday that Giuffre actually signed a settlement with Jeffrey Epstein in exchange for $500,000. She agreed not to sue anyone who could be described as a potential defendant. Now, Prince Andrew's legal team believes that this protects him from going to trial. For others, though, it's just further proof of his guilt. Left-wing tabloid The Daily Mirror calls it a secret deal to silence Andrew's accuser. Now, whatever comes out of this case, Stuart, it does seem that Prince Andrew has already really been tried in the court of public opinion. That's the idea of this cartoon by Morton Moreland for The Times. Instead of the royal guard saying "attention" when he walks by, it's simply "shun."
Nasty. One last story for us. A rather attentive hockey fan made a life-saving observation during a game. It's a good story, this, isn't it?
This is a good story. She noticed that one of the other team's staff members had a rather suspicious-looking mole on his neck. Now, this happened back in October at a game between the Vancouver Canucks and my hometown's new team, the Seattle Kraken. This Kraken fan, Nadia Popovici, volunteered at hospitals, so she really knew her stuff. She alerted the Canucks staff member by writing a message on her phone and then holding it up to the plexiglass. Now, he saw the note. He thought it was a little strange, but he he went and got the mole checked out, and it turned out it was a type 2 malignant melanoma, skin cancer that is curable, but only if it's caught early. He was able to track her down to thank her, and that photo we saw in The Guardian was them meeting at another game between the two teams. They actually offered this young woman a $10,000 scholarship to go towards her medical school studies. The lesson here, Stuart, I think, is if you see something, say something.
That's excellent. It's amazing that she was, only at that level, and amazing that she could see as well with all the hockey gear on as well. Well done to her. Thanks very much, Alison. Alison Sargent there with the papers. More from her, of course, a little bit later on today here on France 24. Do stay with us if you can.